Wolves completed their first league double over Manchester United since the 1980s. Vitor Pereira's side finalised their Premier League status ahead of next season, and that's all thanks to this man. 11 wins, 2 draws and 7 losses since the 56-year-old arrived. He certainly transformed the feeling around the club both on and off the pitch. This video looks to dive a little bit deeper into Pereira's impact in the West Midlands. We'll be looking at statistically the form Wolves find themselves in, how they set up, the tactics, how they defend, attack and much more. Let's go. So before Pereira had come in, Wolves were 19th. 9 points, 2 wins in 16, 40 goals conceded and 5 points from safety. However, if you fast forward to present day, they are 17 points clear of 18th place, making it mathematically impossible for Wolves to go down. Now, if we're being honest, with the squad Wolves have, with the star players Wolves have, they should have never have been that low. Never on the same level as that current bottom 3, but take nothing away from Pereira and how good Wolves have been. They've now won their last 5 games, with only 6 teams in the league who have picked up more points than Wolves since the gaffer's arrival. I think that quite clearly states the impact and transformation Wolves have had under Pereira. But it's not a huge transformation in style and shape compared to Gary O'Neill, so what has changed? Well, when your players are fighting, losing and getting red cards every week, it's a pretty clear indicator that there's a poor environment. So a new face, fresh ideas is always a huge help, especially when that fresh face has been managing since the 2004-2005 season, before I was even born. That's a whole lot of experience. The simplicity of that reason does a lot of heavy lifting, but Wolves perform the fundamentals of football much better now. They are tighter defensively, more dominant, more clinical going forward, more well coached, structured, organised, confident, all of that and more. But let's look at that tactically and how they set up. So this is how they set up at Old Trafford. Cunha back into the firing line behind the striker after suspension. João Gomez and Angel in midfield with Agbadou in the middle of the back line. The 3-4-2-1 works for them so well and their personnel. But let's look at how Wolves operate off the ball, defensively, how they press, because before Pereira had arrived, they had the worst defence in the league. Off the ball is a transition between a 5-2-3 and a 5-4-1. To summarise, when deep within their own half, it's a 5-4-1 with the wide forwards joining Gomez and Andre to make a midfield line of 4. However, when they sit in the middle third, the wide forwards are more proactive, looking to press, allowing them to proactively escape from deep and push up the pitch, similar to Oliver Glasner's Crystal Palace. But they try and push those wide forwards as much as possible in the press, to avoid being camped within their own half. The press, like most pressing, is designed to force the opposition backwards, out wide, or into a long ball. It remains proactive, it remains aggressive and very well balanced. Now this causes opponents between different passages of play, which recently hasn't been very successful when teams are facing Wolves. If the opponents hit it long, then Wolves are pretty confident physically and aerially they'll get the better of their opponent in duels. If it's being struck in behind the defensive line onto a runner, then again Wolves are pretty confident in their defenders chasing back with good speed. So this means opponents immediately look to attack the widths of the pitch, due to Wolves crowding out centrally, and similar to Nottingham Forest, Pereira's side are actually quite confident in their ability to deal with crosses and remove that threat, which is the complete opposite of how the team was under Gary O'Neill. Whether that's an early cross, one that loops, back post, along the turf, Wolves have a solid back line who can clear the ball like it's nothing. But otherwise, this will force the opposition into frustration mostly, to either look for quick passing combos where again they'll be crowded out and dealt with via the sheer energy of Wolves midfield, or to push an extra player forward where Wolves could then exploit that on the break. But other than that, they have to go backwards, which allows Wolves to push up and escape their own half, which is what they want to do. Just before we talk about their press much higher up the pitch, I'm not quite finished talking about them defensively. Defensively, I love the solidity that they have to them again. Agbadou looks a shrewd bit of business. This is someone who wins his duels both in the air and on the ground. He's brilliant. Totti Gomez, unreal. The centre-backs don't just sit back, they follow their man aggressively and look to snatch the ball from them when it comes. And then the midfield in front of that line, they're engines who do a lot of running. In truth, most of the team have to be engines because Pereira's team requires a lot of running. They transition from attack to defence quite well, meaning they aren't overly exposed in transition. Then once they are deep, they have a lot of numbers back defensively. The shape also allows them to double up on either side, and the wide centre-backs are very proactive when defending out wides. Doherty, who as we know, shared a long career in playing at wing-back, but doesn't quite have the legs anymore. So now, he's right centre-back of the three. This works well, as that's a player who specialises in defending out wides, with another player in Semedo who defends there too. On the other flank, you have ait-nouri defending out there, with Totti Gomez who brings that physical dominance in dealing with attackers 1v1. It's a fine balance, and when they defend a little bit more narrowly to force a team to use their width, they know they have the tools to defend and counter that. But now they've forced the opposition back, escaped their own half, or maybe it's a goal kick, they look to press man to man with a bit of organisation. It's a bit of a 5-2-3, but it depends on the opposition forwards. They may drop deep, which leads the wide centre-backs to then follow, as Agbadu stays with the number 9 mostly. Here against United you can see Agbadu on Højlund and Totti Gomez on Garnacho. Gomez followed Garnacho successfully in this game and limited him pretty well. Often when pressing, they overload the press onto one side of the pitch, with a few players really limiting the passing options of that player, almost trapping them and forcing them into going long, which they'll win it, as we know. Now when teams try and build up from the back against Wolves, they press high. The wide forwards often look to curve the run when pressing onto the goalkeeper. Here you can see this with Manutd against Onana. He removes the passing option to the keeper's left and forces him into a long ball. Wolves are very good at this. It comes down to the coaching and clear instruction from Pereira, but also the athleticism of that front three. Strand Larsen, athletic, covers ground. Manutd, athletic and a great presser. Bellegarde, athletic and covers ground. You can see when Cunha actually came back into the team, the press and transition from attack to defence wasn't as effective, as he spends a lot of time walking, as we know. And as brilliant and clinical of a player Cunha is, Wolves are actually a bit more of a difficult side to play against in terms of pressing and off the ball when Cunha isn't there. However, that's that. Let's look into what they do on the ball. On the ball, the shape isn't much of a shock. The wing-backs look to push right up, the back three spreads wide, and they utilise counter-attacks. The second Wolves win back the ball, bang. Whoever's highest up the pitch will attack forwards. Not too many touches, fast, instant, immediate, with a clear attacking intent with the numbers they attack with. The attacking game plan is nothing too complicated. They overload the box with numbers. The wing-backs look for crosses but are supported via the runs of the wide forwards and runners in the box altogether. But before that, they receive the ball via the centre-backs or the two midfielders. This could be a long direct ball from Agbadu, which he's great at, Totti Gomez carrying the ball forwards intensely, which he's great at, or a smart pass from the midfield, which they're great at. You get the idea. So the common theme consists of centre-backs or midfielders passing into the wing-backs, supported by the wide forward, and then a box overload for the cross. The players from deep can also look for long balls towards Strand Larsen, who can drop deep and physically hold off the centre-back, or even wide runners making the runs in behind. There's that flexibility in their approach. The runs are quite commonly how they score goals though. The front three attack the box mostly at the back post, as runners. They do this as it's the blind side of the defender, and obviously if you overhit a cross, you still have a chance at goal. But also if you look here, those numbers are pinning back the Spurs defence, essentially creating acres of space for any bobble, deflection or cross aims that arrives in this area. It means you've got a great chance of scoring. The two behind Strand Larsen will crash the box, as we can see, but it's commonly the selfless runs of Manutd that actually creates more space for Strand Larsen to operate with. He's brilliant at it, and of course Strand Larsen can too do the same for Manutd. Manutd makes smart runs, so the centre-backs will commonly focus on their main physical threat being the number 9, without even picking up Wolves' number 5. I'd personally like to see Wolves recruit another box crasher that has a bit of aerial threat in the summer, as this would be a huge handful for Premier League defenders. Pereira's already getting the best out of Bellegarde and Pablo Sarabia, two players who were struggling before he joined. Moving away from the attacking side though, in build-up they do often look long, but they do try and play it out if they can, but they often aim a directed ball right into Strand Larsen. The back line is all very comfortable with a decent passing range, with a midfield ahead who are everywhere and can pick out a pass too. The wide centre backs can carry the ball forwards down their natural side, but ultimately it's Agbadou, the January signing, who brings that authority. He distributes the ball very calmly, side to side, or if it's a long ball, but he also communicates to his teammates quite clearly, almost like a leader already. In this moment against Manchester United, Agbadou instructed his teammate in midfield to drop into the back line, creating a back four basically. Now why does he do this? Well, simply, it's because Agbadou wants to find Cunha. He decides that early. He wants to show his brilliant weight and accuracy of pass to find somebody who's very technically gifted with his feet, someone who wants the ball passed to their feet. So the midfielder moves, and Agbadou now has more clear space to go ahead and execute that pass. It's a very minor tactical detail, but it does detail the authority, ability and communication Agbadou has reinstated into that back line. And hopefully this video detailed how Vitor Pereira has reinstated a good feeling around Wolverhampton Wanderers again. It will certainly be interesting this summer to see what Wolves do with the Matheus Cunha money ahead of Pereira's first full season as Wolves boss. Thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to smash a like and subscribe to the channel. Where do you think Wolves and Vitor Pereira will finish next season? Will it be more of the same, lower Premier League, or will they push on to mid-table or even top 10? Let's see. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.